What's going on, everyone? This is Sherry, and you are tuned into She Said What She Said, the podcast where we interview badass women in the sports world and beyond. And I have a guest host tonight. The last time she was on, we started ranking QBs in the NFL from hottest to nottest. Uh, she's from our channel's can't speak baseball podcast. Kristen, our number one Cubs fan. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hi, Sherry. How are you? Hi,
I'm
everyone.
great. I know. I was trying to say MLB and baseball at the same time, so it just came out like, where are you
Well,
from?
saying it like that pretty much fits what's happening in Chicago baseball anyway.
And
We
we
don't
will
know if
talk
it's
about,
actual baseball, so
girl, we will talk about that after our interview tonight. Because I got some questions for
all
you
right.
about your teams
Oh,
here in the great city of Chicago. This is one of those times where I'm like, I'm from Michigan, Detroit. What's up? Because I ain't claiming none of this. None of it. None of it. But we have a good show tonight, and I'm so happy you are here to join me because we are taking a little turn away from the sports world but another world that I know is near and dear to both of us. And that is the world of philanthropy and volunteerism, the world
yes,
of giving back. And
yes.
I know, I do it weekly-ish. I know you're very involved with organizations as well. But this woman tonight, this is who she is. This is what defines her. She's a social worker. She's a podcaster. She's a radio host, and most importantly, she's a philanthropy advisor. So she is the one that will advise the charities how to get started, how to do their events, how to run things, all those things from behind the scenes. She is also, right, Latoya? She's the best. Woo woo, this girl. And I'll tell you how I got her too. She is friends with Gigi, my coach's wife, who I had on a few weeks ago. She hit follow on the IG. And I was looking at her page and I looked at some of her reels and I was like, I love this woman. Let's get her on. Yes.
Yes, it's
So
gonna be good.
yeah, and she's from the NWA, Northwest Arkansas. This is actually the fourth guest that we've had from the NWA. So we got a whole nother. Have you been to Northwest Arkansas before?
I have not.
It's beautiful.
It is okay.
I just ended up there randomly. I had a work trip nearby. Swung over to see Gigi and Chris, and I was like, where am I? It's like the Ozark area. It's beautiful. Highly recommend.
Okay.
I think I'll go out next year.
All right. I'll have to make a trip
Right? But
or
without
stop on my way somewhere.
Right, shoe. But without further ado, here is Miss Ty Odom. Hey.
What a warm welcome. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
No, that was a great introduction. I was like, ooh, is that me? Is that
Girl,
really
that's
me?
you. That's
It's
you.
me. Hey, everybody who's watching.
Yes. Thank you for coming on representing the NWA.
Listen, I love Fayetteville. So when I heard your sentiments, it feels almost as if it is like this little secret place in the middle of nowhere
Literally.
that has everything that you can fall in love with. I mean, it's just awesome. It really is. So I remember watching the commercials of like Branson, Missouri, and I'm like, who goes to Branson, Missouri? What's in Branson, Missouri? And now I tell my friends, I live 2 hours from Branson. I live 3 hours from Tulsa. And I'm like, what happened to you? And I'm like, Northwest Arkansas did it. Northwest Arkansas.
Girl at NWA. How long have you been in Arkansas?
Since 2020. So I literally moved
Your
to
transplant.
Fayetteville the weekend that we were like gonna be home for 2 weeks.
Girl.
Yeah. So I was in Walmart and the shelves were bare and I looked like the person who was hoarding everything because I had like 2 buggies because I had nothing. I had literally just moved from Georgia to Arkansas. And I'm just looking like this is bad. Someone's gonna get me for having 2 buggies of stuff. So since 2020, the weekend of COVID shutdown.
Man, Man, and you're from Atlanta, right?
Well, I'm from Williston, South Carolina. And then I moved to Arkansas from Georgia. So, but
Okay.
home is Williston, South Carolina.
My bad.
Oh, it's all good.
And I know you Southern when you said buggies.
Huh?
When you said I had 2 buggies.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Man, I had 2 buggies. Listen.
We don't call that up
No.
here in the north.
No, what are they called? Shopping carts?
Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
But just say, or you'll say your cart.
Your carts.
Cool.
Yeah. the buggy. I had 2 buggies.
Got 2 buggies. I'm like, if that ain't a Southern girl right there, I don't know what is.
That's me. That is.
I love it. I love it.
Oh.
How did you meet? Before we go into your interview, how did you meet Gigi?
I met Gigi through a mutual friend. So we got to Northwest Arkansas. Everybody says, "Hey, you got to meet Gigi and you got to meet Chris." So met Gigi and Chris, fell in love with Gigi and Chris. And then they introduced me to Jody. So then it's just kind of like this little circle. Gigi is such a great person that she introduces you to other great people. So I saw them on your podcast, and then I liked it, commented, did the whole Instagram thing, supporting my friends. And then you were in my inbox like, "Hey, would you like to be?" And I was like, skirt, man, So yeah, so that's how I met the wonderful Virginia and Chris.
I love it. So Chris, I don't know if you saw those episodes, but Chris Johnson was my coach at Penn State. He is now the coach at Arkansas, one of the top track and field coaches now in the country, him and his brother Boogie. And Gigi is Chris's wife. So she was a volunteer coach and an athlete when I was at Penn State doing her post grad. And it's wild to think of like where, again, Chris is one of the best coaches in the country. Like you can watch these coaches Arkansas. They won the indoor NCAAs. He's got these amazing women, Shamir Little, on the professional circuit. And there was a time where, like, his Penn State was his first coaching job, like as not like kind of paid like real coaching job. And I actually was like, it's a new coach. I don't know. I need to interview this dude. Chris Johnson. But I talked to him after 30 minutes. I was like, oh yeah, this guy is amazing and to see what he has become. And then to meet his wife, Gigi, it was just,
that's my
family. That's my family for life. I love them. And so I love that you're part of this circle.
Yeah, Gigi is awesome. She, I was going to say she puts the icing on the cake, but then I started thinking about her cooking and I'm like, man, she can do it all. Girl. I mean, hey, Gigi. We're not going to tell you business. We don't want everybody getting our little secret chef.
Right.
Cooking is phenomenal. She's just,
they're so nice. And then I met Jody and I was like, wait, this is your best friend? She hiked Mount Kilimanjaro and she's a motivational speaker. I have her book. I haven't, it's my next book to start reading. I have it up. I have it on my nightstand. It's my next one. So I love it. I might be maybe next year for Arkansas.
Come on.
A couple of my teammates, we've been talking about like doing a little trip there to go to a track meet and, to see Chris and Gigi more importantly, but don't
yeah, I know, right? We just had like a 10-minute on Gigi. I hope she does.
I know.
Gigi.
I know, yeah, because she hit me up earlier. She's like, "How do you get time?" I'm like, "Girl, it's your people. Everyone loves you.
Everybody does. I know.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I need to meet this person.
You do. She's
She's the sweetest, most awesome, badass woman you'll ever meet. And she is, to put it in perspective, she is 5'5", 5'5", 5'4", 5'5", my height. She used to be able to dunk.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That girl had hops. She was one of the best athletes in America. I mean, this girl was a monster. And she's the sweetest thing you've ever met. The first time you talk to her.
She won't say about herself either. She won't say it either. Like, you won't know at all that she has done what she's done. It takes Jody saying, My best friend's like in the Hall of Fame. It takes Jody doing that, and then she'll be like, I did. I'm like,
Yeah. I was like, Gigi, how many times are you All-American? I think you did.
Right.
You won 25. She was like, oh, I don't know. That sounds about right. Like, girl, shoot.
I'm like,
My ass, if I had that many accolades that she has,
toot.
gassed
Right.
up like a mofo.
Just be on a t-shirt everywhere I go.
Girl, she was raised right. I'll tell you that. She was raised right. Because if I had her accolades, you couldn't tell me nothing. Oh, but
Yeah.
I love that. I love that's your circle. You know what I mean? Because you are who you hang out with, right? You know what I mean? You are the company that you keep. So if that's your company, come on, girl.
Good company over there. And good and great company over there.
Yeah. But let's talk about you.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about me.
Because I listed a lot of things that you did. But let's talk about how you got into this world of, I assume you got into social work 1st. Tell us about your journey into that.
So I have degrees in social work. So for a while, I thought I would be a social worker. I would work in policy and legislation, and I would go to law school. That was the, that's what I'm going to do thing. So then I worked on the Obama campaign. So I'm in undergrad at this point. I go work on the campaign and I hop states and do all the fun things in 07, 08. And I met a lot of people who had gone to law school, but I met a lot of people who weren't practicing law and a lot of people who owed a lot of money for those student loans. And I said, well, hey, if you don't really want to practice, maybe that's just not really what you should do right away. So let's just kind of figure that part out. So I did a year of AmeriCorps, and I worked at a housing authority, and I had already had my bachelor's in social work. And I was like, okay, this could kind of be what I do as I figure it out. And then I ended up going to grad school and getting my MSW, and I went to work back in housing and community development for a while. And then I kind of got connected to athletes, and I saw that they have a really, really unique opportunity as professional athletes to just use their platforms for good. So when you think about going to a Boys and Girls Club, the three of us could go to a Boys and Girls Club tomorrow. We could tell students, stay in school, don't do drugs, go to college, and it's like, whatever, But there are people who have this opportunity and platform where we took an athlete into a Boys and Girls Club, they get undivided attention. They're gonna read the speech that I wrote, but they're gonna get all the things, right? So I was like, I just told these kids that stay in school, don't do drugs. But I don't have the platform, that they don't see me on TV, all those things. And so I remember being at a football camp. And so I started with like football camps, just super easy for guys to get into. It's one day as they figure out, what are my philanthropic pillars? What do I want to do in my community? Am I passionate about education? Am I passionate about helping unhoused individuals? Is it domestic violence? So a lot of times getting into what they do professionally, like a football camp, is easy. It's one day. You'll probably bring in a lot of sponsors. A ton of your professional friends will visit some little city where no professional athletes ever are. And it's a nice entryway into getting your feet wet into the philanthropic space. And so I did that part-time for fun, just kind of as a hobby while I still worked my full-time job. And then I realized that it could be a real job. Like I started meeting people who worked specifically in the philanthropic space, just in that arena. So being a social worker, you are boots on the ground. I'm like going home heavy. I'm wanting to adopt kids at 24. I'm like, I can't do that, right? I'm thinking, well, they only need this for their light bill. Maybe no, like you go to work, you do what the manual says, and that's kind of it, right? And I realized there were so many gaps. And the gaps are where the people with the money could literally come in and write me a check for $3, $4, $5, $1 million. And that changes the trajectory of tons of families. But who's fundraising? What is fundraising? How does that work? Who's doing this? So then I learned it's a career. People do this full time every day. They raise money. And more importantly, there are companies that are giving the money. So then you have to get connected to figure out, what is the Coca-Cola Foundation? What is the Walmart Foundation? What's the Walmart Family Foundation? What's the Walton Family Foundation? Who holds that money? And so that's where I got really interested in philanthropy as a whole, that it was an industry where all of these mini nonprofits that we know of, we still are in need of private dollars. 9 times out of 10, you've got individual donors, you've got just that little pocket. So that's how I got started. I was a social worker who started working with athletes, saw where those gaps could be filled, where on that side of things, 9 times out of 10, I'm giving out money. I'm able to help a cause if I'm working with an athlete that they're passionate about. Versus my full-time day job, I'm normally searching for money. I'm normally looking for family foundations, private organizations, individuals who have that type of wealth who are wanting to support it. So that's how it started, just out of curiosity of how do I fill that gap? And then meeting people who had it and needed a little bit of guidance on how to do it and do it well. That was long. I feel like I didn't even take a breath.
Girl, that's amazing. So I'm like,
Yeah, that's it.
Everything you did.
That's it. So that's how I got started. Just super easy. It was my real thing. It's my real job, because I was doing it on the side and realized that it was a full-time job. NFL teams have, I think they're called corporate relations, right? There might be social responsibility. It's not PR. I tell people I'm not a PR person. It's not what I do. If you want to do some charity stuff, I can pull together my team. We can make that happen. But I am not Olivia Pope. I don't put out fires. I don't do any of those things. If you end up on the shade room,
so you're not helping John Morant with his little boom, 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 bang, bang gun shit?
That's someone else's. I stick only. I'm a part of a team. Hopefully someone who is, key in communications, knows what they're doing in that space, will bring someone like me in to say, how do you help us see where he's aligned mission-wise as a person, right? Like a lot of times there has to be this distinction of, hey, you're great. Hey, this is what it costs to start an organization, or what does it cost to sustain? What's our overall goal with this? Is this just going to be what you do while you're in the league? And what are some alternatives to you doing that? Yep. Not everybody is going to start an I Promise school. That's not what's going to happen. But there are people who are the LeBron James in their community doing that type of work. So what does that look like when you no longer have an NFL check? I feel like my job is to say to someone, here are options where you can have just as much impact. Here are options for you that you don't have to start a foundation. You can do fiscal sponsorship. You can just start a fund at a community foundation. So that's my job in the gamut of being a philanthropy advisor.
And so do you find, what do you find is the hardest part when you're working with the athletes, or even if you're working with other people who just have money and they're looking to do something good for the community? What is the hardest part getting them started?
Helping them define help, right? Because normally people will tell me they want to help people. And so I need to dive into what that looks like for you. I need to define what type of services you want to offer. And if there's something already in play, how do we really just sometimes make that better? Because if you don't want a full-time staff, if you don't want to grow a program, if you don't want a building, if you don't want to do any of those things, 9 times out of 10, you are way better off investing in somebody that already has the infrastructure. So it's getting
let me just do the little
poetry. And that's the thing, which is there are ways that you could literally have the She Said What She Said Foundation, but you're not an organization. You're a fiscally sponsored program. Someone else takes care of all the paperwork. You use someone else's tax exemption, and that's called fiscal sponsorship. And I try to figure out what's the end goal, right? Like you're doing it. Those checks hit on Monday, and when they hit, right? But what happens the first Monday that you do not get an NFL check?
Right.
That is what I want people to think about. Like, what does that commitment look like? And if you're going to hire a team, that's about a $60,000 CEO salary, right? is that better off funding 5,000 kids to go through a Boys and Girls Club where they're going to get this curriculum is there. So I just try and work with people on figuring that out. Now, there are some people who starting a foundation is the path that they should take. They are in a position to do so. They're educated in a way that, hey, I know what this investment is. Like you're making a social impact investment in this, and not just this person's salary, right? You're investing in this community is going to start depending on this service. We don't want it to be snatched away because something, so that's what I try and get people to think through. I don't discourage anybody. I used to say, listen, you're not ready. Just because I felt like I didn't want to be the type of consultant that just kept pushing nonprofits out. Like literally, I'm pushing them out. And then I would go look at the IRS website. You're not compliant. So you're not, I did all that work. You're not even filling out your paperwork. Because there's a business in the business of helping people. So I feel like if I can educate people enough, find the right vehicle for them to really get involved, but not feel overwhelmed. Because the minute we feel overwhelmed, we're like, nah, this ain't for me. I didn't know I had all these papers. I didn't know I had to do compliance. I didn't know that. I didn't know I had to file taxes. I thought I was tax exempt.
I've heard that. I've heard people say that.
Girl. I would say, when I was creeping on your Instagram before I slid into your DMs, you had a little quick video. I don't remember when it was from, but it was like, just because you want to help someone doesn't mean you need to start a nonprofit. And I felt that in my soul because, so my mom has ran a nonprofit before, a 501(c)(3), smaller one, but it was, very specific for fundraising for a place that there wasn't fundraising for. And one of my best friends, the one that popped in with a little comment earlier, he also runs a nonprofit in his free time. And it's the amount of work that it takes to just get it started and then to get it going is insane. And if you don't have that type of dedication, it's not going to do it. And it's like, no one is going to care about your cause as much as you do. So you need to, be able to get not only the funding, but also the volunteer work to get it going. And we have a comment saying I feel like we need people more empathy nowadays. True story. We do.
I think we're all in this little island in this kind of where we live in our space and our being. And so even getting the empathy, it's I don't feel sorry for you because you're in this space. It's I could feel you in this moment. It's something I can relate to. So I think even for me, when I have people that come volunteer, I start off with, first and foremost, you are here at someone's event, whether it's a person we know from football or basketball or anything, not even famous people. I need you to treat this person with so much respect at this registration table because we don't know what they did to get here. We don't know what they experienced before they got here. We have more than enough hot dogs and chip bags. Give this kid another hot dog and chip bag because we don't know. So I feel like there's just this space where in my trainings, I have to tell people don't have a power trip today. Please don't. You're here to volunteer on behalf of something. No one will know your name. If this goes to fire, they're looking for Ty. Right? I've trained you well. Make me proud when you go out there today. But it's all about me helping people to step into this kid will probably never see another person with this type of platform. This organization I'm working for now, she is like the most phenomenal person ever. And her space comes from that of a survivors. And so the way that she is able to really just walk into a room, be her complete self, and able to say, I may not have gone through what you've gone through, but I feel you wholeheartedly. It's just like phenomenal. It's just one of those things. So I agree with you. Empathy is when we're serving, we're not serving because we have and they don't. We're not serving because, my job told me I got to do an hour so I can get another hour of PTO, even if we are. if we can change why we're thinking about why we're there,
Mhm.
that changes the game for you. I would always tell myself as a social worker, I'm 2 checks away from being on the other side of this table.
Mm-hmm.
Checks.
And
That could be my grandmother on the other side. That could be my aunt. That could be my mom. You're planting a seed for yourself, even if you're doing things for someone else.
else.
That's 100% true.
It is true. And I will say, like, so I've volunteering, philanthropy, super important to me, super important to my family, kind of deep-seated rooted. I've had a couple different organizations that I've given, my time regularly to. One of them was a crisis text line. And I would say one of the most powerful trainings I've had is training on how to be a crisis counselor. Because I've always been, good at, listening, this and that, never make it about yourself, because I never wanted to make anything about myself, except for if I were Gigi, I'd make everything about myself. But, but you know what I mean? Because some people, they hear like, oh yeah, I've been through that too. I know, no, I've never been like that, but to like go through the training for that, like, it's a powerful thing, you know what I mean? To just like stop thinking about yourself for a minute, take yourself out of it, and do everything you can to serve that other person on the other side of you. And I'll say that crisis counseling is a very tough, emotionally draining work to do.
Sure.
Girl, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. I don't mind not having to go through the whole suicide steps of where I gauge this person. And once you get to the point of where you're telling someone with no emotion, can you get off the building so we can talk for a bit? Like, please don't jump. Like, and you're not freaking out because it's normal. Like, man, whew.
Yeah.
But that's like what it is, right? It's not about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Not when you help. It's about that person that's on the building. Right. In any situation where we need volunteers to help, it's about that other person. You know what I mean? Of where they are and what we want to do for them.
Yeah. And I think too, the important thing for that is the training. There's a lot of space where right now, a lot of us are unlearning things. I think that's the term we're using now, which is, as we dive into different spaces and get involved in different things, there's just an opportunity for us to realize maybe I don't know how to communicate with someone who can't communicate right now, right? Like, are you like, it's kind of like talk. I have a kid, he's 8 years old. Sometimes I'm like, okay, he's 8 and he's only 8 years old smart. Like, it does not matter how many times I say this. He is 8 years old. So I need to remember that in the way that I communicate with him, because there are times when I'm like, Alexander James. And then I'm like, he's 8, bring it back, meet him where he's at. And I just remember someone always telling me, meet someone where they're at. If they're on the bridge right now, you got to meet them on that bridge. If there's cars passing by, you got to think, I've got to meet them right where they are. And right here in this moment, where you are is where I need to be, where my mind needs to be, where my heart needs to be, because that's a big responsibility. The crisis hotline, I've done that in Nashville for the YWCA. And they'll tell you, I think a woman tries to leave at the time, I think the stat says 7 times before she'll leave a violent situation.
Yeah.
And so when you're on the phone with someone who's like, I only got 30 minutes and I need part 2 of my safety plan, you are on safety plan. That's it. Are you safe right now is the main question. And then you go into that, and then you're like, okay, she's going to call back in 2 hours and she's going to get a whole nother person. And I hope this whole nother person can like handle her the way that someone else did in this space. So crisis isn't necessarily all like at one time. Like, some people live in crisis 100% of the time and they need a plan to get out. And so when my crisis hotline was happening, I was like, okay, I've got some people that are going to call here a couple times a week.
Yeah.
Until she feels comfortable enough to do that. Right.
To take that next step. Latoya saying that's why Ty is the best. Yes, girl.
Hey, Latoya.
Yes, girl. So, Kristen, what? I know you do some, volunteer type items. What is on your plate in that world?
So, actually, I have a nonprofit with my friend called Be the Miracle, and so our goal is to take back and rebuild communities in Chicago to end the cycle of violence, gun violence. And we're doing that through developing the youth leaders who will help the city, because it's going to be quite a while. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time. And so, but we both also have full-time jobs, like what you've been speaking about, or you, Sherry, your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so in your free time, that's when you're trying to work on everything. And it is hard. It's hard just to get participation. It's, you know, you spend time, you spend your time begging people. So it's just like, you're just begging all the time. But I think one of the biggest problems, and I don't know, Ty, if you've seen this when you're working with others, athletes and other people when they're starting their organizations or foundations, it is really hard to get people to participate. You know, we had a scholarship. We just gave out 10, 11 scholarships, but the begging we had to do to get people to even apply. So, Ty, when you're working with organizations that are having trouble just getting the participants, and it may not be as hard for athletes because, you know, if I see Justin Fields is having a scholarship, it's going to be too many people there. But for people with money, but everyone maybe doesn't know their name, what do you tell them? How do you work with them?
Marketing, right? There's this TED talk that says we have charity wrong. So if I were to say to you right now, what is the thing that you use to blow your nose? What's it called? Small. It's
Kleenex.
Okay, so Kleenex is not what it's called. Kleenex is the brand,
tissue.
right? It's like a facial tissue.
Yeah, facial tissue.
But in our minds, it's a Kleenex.
Yeah,
It's a Kleenex. So a lot of times people are fighting against marketing. It's, do people trust me? Have I put myself out there? And that's a battle that people face because people think that a nonprofit should have low overhead. Don't spend much of the money, put it into the program. But if no one knows I'm here, if no one knows I exist, if I'm not able to build the type of web presence, the type of materials that I'm going up against the giants, no one's going to trust me. No one's bringing their kid to me. So my advice is to always see how can we share the message a little bit more. And then when it comes to getting participants, a lot of times I think it's going to depend on what's the relationship with the school, what's the relationship with some of the bigger organizations. So, you know, the big three, you know, if the YWCA is doing it, if the Boys and Girls Club, what's those relationships like to kind of do those things. So don't work in a silo to be like, this is my scholarship, I tell the school and that's it, versus this is my scholarship, how many other people can I connect with? What are the opportunities for me to just be in front of a crowd that serves children? And so I would say that always share the message a whole lot, all the time, in as many ways as you can, and think like, you know, churches are always the go-to in the South. You get to the church, get on the Sunday program, that's what they tell you to go and do. So getting people to participate starts with one, this community I'm serving. Where are the parents? What's the interaction like? All righty. How do I reach the parents to say, hey, this is what we have? So that goes into like the layering of how many of my kids are planning to go somewhere after high school anyway, if I'm going to this particular high school. How many of these students are top 20 students? Can I ask the principal or social worker to like specifically make sure they take these 20, 25 students? So it takes a little digging. And it takes a whole lot of marketing for people to really get to know you. When no one knows you, I'm not sending my baby anywhere. You brand new. You're established.
Yeah, like who?
Who is that?
Chris and I have some ideas for you too. I'll tell you off air. And I'm just my mind, because I'm thinking networking, like who do I know?
Okay.
Some ideas.
Now, Ty, when you're working with your organizations and individuals, what's the number one mistake people make? Or you can give me top 5 if it's even easier to do that.
She was like, just one?
Right.
It's a good one because I could say, so we'll talk fundraising because right now I'm a full-time fundraiser. That's my real job. That's what I do full-time. Number one is just assuming that because you do good work, people are going to give you money. Just assuming that because you have a 501c3 that you are going to get grants. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions I see all the time, which is someone says, I'm going to start a nonprofit. And there's a lot of grant money out there. There is. There's a lot of private money out there. There's a lot of family foundations out there. There is. Are you going to do the work it takes to research the organization, to find the money, to put yourself in a position to say, they're going to ask you about program outcomes. Do you have a program? Do you have any successes? I'm not giving you $300,000 because you did the 501c3 application in 2020 and you have served 20 people. I'm not giving you $500,000 for that. What we've got to do is stop thinking that, because my idea is great and I'm a good person and I'm helping people. So people are going to want to help me. That's not what's going to happen.
No, it's like also remembering that a lot of family foundations are planned in the long-term strategy. So it's that long-term marketing where you might make a great connection this year, but they already have their budget done for 2023.
And a lot of them, you have to be invited.
For tax purposes, they are not going to do anything for you until 2024. So you got to build that relationship. And they also want to know, what are you going to do with the funds? How are they going to be distributed? Because if they give you 50 grand and it sits in your bank account, they would rather it sit in their bank account and give it to you when you're ready to spend that 50 grand. It's the easiest, it's the simple. And EK's question that just came in is also kind of related to this one about the mistakes, asking, do you have recommended form of marketing, advertising? It's going into that, like, but what do you think is the best way? Is it dependent on the organization? Like, how do you recommend people advertise, getting that word out?
Yeah, I think it depends on the organization and the mission, for instance, and what you're looking for, right? So if you're looking for volunteers, social media is where it's going to be at. You're going to be on your TikToks, you're going to be on your Instagrams, you're going to be on Facebook. And that's going to get you like, oh, okay, I have volunteers that are coming in. When you start talking about, okay, I need donors. I tell people a lot of people's information is public. Start with the public information. If you can go to organizations, fundraising events, and you get those booklets that we're still printing out, that's going to tell you right there who gave them some money, that you're going to know who the players are in that situation. So online marketing is really good. Facebook ads. I see people who are able to put out ads, and it's just to start introducing yourself to people. It's just to say, like, I've got to get outside of this 25-mile radius and my 3 or 4 family members that live in another state, because we're afraid. A lot of us are afraid to ask for something. I tell people, if you don't want to ask for money, if you don't want to ask for people's time, you're probably not going to make it to the next step of getting this nonprofit off the ground. So for me, it totally depends on organization's mission. Right now, my current daytime job is extremely corporate. Probably 90% of my money comes from private foundations and banks. So I really don't have to go and be on social media, because the bank isn't looking for me on social media. They're going to be looking for me if I'm a part of the Chamber of Commerce, if I'm a part of the Association of Fundraising Professionals. That's where my funding is coming from corporations. If it's coming from people, I need to be right in front of people. I need to figure out any type of festivals that I can have my table at for my nonprofit organization. Like grassroots stuff will take you, it might take you out of here. You might like, I don't want to go sit up and vend at a table. But guess what? You might have 20, 30,000 people that come through there in a weekend. That's foot traffic. That might take a car, that might pull the organization, but you're also getting practice in selling what your service is, because that's going to be the key. A lot of times we aren't prepared to sell what we offer. So think about your mission, who your funders are. If it's people, get in front of people. If it's even partnering with the bigger people, if you have a program, for instance, my friend has a program called My Safety Starts With Me, but she goes into the Boys and Girls Club and she teaches her 5-week course on how to have internet safety, how to protect yourself from things online. So instead of her saying, this is my course, I'm selling it, and I'm going to wait till people come to me, she has been very proactive, hit the ground running, and decided who can I partner with because those people are now saying, these are our people, and we want to introduce you to another club, and we want to introduce you to other opportunities. So don't work in silo. That's probably your best marketing, is to partner as much as you can.
I like that. And you had said something a little bit earlier, about the overhead costs, right? Of we want to keep things low, right? But I think a lot of nonprofits sometimes forget is you get what you pay for, and if you pay for nothing, you get nothing. My so my parents are big into the philanthropy world, and there's this one organization that my mom wanted to give a good amount of money to, but she wanted to give it in the form of mutual funds. Well, this organization wasn't set up to receive it, and they wanted to find someone to set it up for free. They couldn't find someone to set it up for free because it takes a little bit of time. She offered to give the money to hire someone to set this up, and this person was such a penny pincher, they refused that. So you know what happened to that money?
And still with your mom, making more money.
It went to somebody else. It went to another organization that had that set up, because she's like, I'm trying to give you this. All you need is a vehicle to accept it. I'm giving you the money. I said I'd pay for it to accept it, but you still are a penny pincher. What are you doing? And it was like someone she personally knew too. And she's like, what are you doing? And it was like, all right, well, let me find a different route that also does one of their things that they're big into is, again, nothing to do with our family or anything, but just something social services that you need is ex-cons coming back into the world, right? They re-entry, right? Getting them into education, right? Getting the grants for them to go to community college, go to local universities. My parents are big on education. They don't want to give more money to University of Michigan. They got enough money. They want to give the money to the community colleges, or the ones that, help, like ex-cons, people coming out, right? Because if they don't have education, the root of everything is education. But it was like, oh, we're not going to take it in that. She's like, all right, fine. Well, I'll just go to a different school. And it's so frustrating to hear someone say no to money because they're penny pinching. And
especially if you're a nonprofit.
And that's the thing too, when you start to deal with more with donors who have, like, at some level, you're going to get, I can give you $20 a month. I can give you this. You're going to get some donors when you start really getting into money. Donors want to give through their mutual funds. They want to give through their stocks. They want to put you in their wheels. They want to do those types.
They don't want the tax implications of taking out the fund. They want.
So when you start to really dive into wealth and wealth strategies for charity, I tell people I'm not a lawyer and I am not a tax advisor, but please understand that at some level of giving, there's something in that space where a tax advisor, a wealth advisor manager has said, this is what this is what we do. And you got to be prepared and ready to take on whatever that family foundation or individual is giving you. So you may have seen where DAFs, donor advised funds, get a lot of slack in the media at times. So that's pretty much where, let's say a big bank has a donor advised fund, and I can go and tell the big bank, here's $1 million. Boom. Now that counts for me. That donor advised fund will give me some type of tax receipt, and it just sits there. The issue is you only have to spend X amount percentage of that out a year. So the issue was, people were saying that people who are extremely wealthy are creating these donor advised funds and just sitting their money in there, right? Because they've already gotten the tax, right? The tax benefits from that, but they're still sitting in the staff, and the DAF may be giving out $200,000 a year off of the $1 million. That's just an example, right? Versus if you go to a community foundation, they also do donor advised funds, but they give you a little more hands-on information. So if you go to any, like, Kristen, are you familiar with community foundations?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to those, they'll have listed, like, all the grants that they have, all those things. Versus if you were to go to a big bank, and I don't want to call any names, you might not even see what their DAFs are funding from the year, versus the community foundations take on it. It's just a little different. So for that organization, I would say, I hope they got themselves together after that.
Right.
Your mom, like,
yeah.
Now, when you've been working, so you explained to the audience the difference with the foundation and one that nonprofit that has services. In your experience, which ones have been the most successful?
Kids, people love kids. I mean, my goodness, honey, if you say you're doing something with these kids, they are, woo, yeah, yeah, the future. We want to save the kids, right? And I always thought, after my law school goals, and boom, I ain't doing that. I was like, I'm gonna work with kids. I'm gonna work with kids. I'm gonna work with kids. I think kids are this idea of who we can shape, and they are the future. And if we just pour into them, the world will be better. Where there is such a big space of, if I can pour into this parent for the next 40 years that they are living here, and that they're going to do the work on this earth, I'm actually helping the kids a little bit more. Because if I'm teaching you something at the Boys and Girls Club, I get you for 3 hours a day. And then you go back home. And I can't really combat with that unless I'm telling your mom, like, hey, this is what we went over. These are our expectations. This is what's going on. And so I think the most successful organizations sell hope. I think they sell possibility. I think their marketing leaves us feeling like for $40 a month, this kid is going to have an opportunity from the south side of Chicago. And it's me getting your buy-in. Those are the most successful. The most successful organizations are probably the best marketers.
Yeah. It's so, my mom would always say, because when she did her nonprofit, it was for medical research funding. That's not sexy. It wasn't breast cancer. It was, you know what I mean? It wasn't something that you see all on there. It didn't affect kids. And it's like, yes, kids are so important, but kids are not a silo.
They're not.
And so so my primary volunteering right now is with a food pantry. Because let's think, what does everyone need? Food. Food insecurity leads to so many issues, not just for the kids, but for the parents, for all these different places. So if we can give people access to safe food, nutritious food, things that will keep them going, it's just like these little things, right? But it's also, look, I love the kids that come in, but it's also like, just because you're not a kid doesn't mean I want to turn my back on you, because you get a lot of seniors in there too. You know what I mean? And it's like, you see the inflation going up, you see the cost of things. I don't know about how Arkansas is, but Chicago, when some of the SNAP benefits got taken away, that hit some families hard. I mean, we're talking a couple $100 a month that just disappeared. And so for me, it's about being involved in the organizations that help with that kind of that base of food insecurity, right? Because like, oh, that kid's acting up in school. Do they have food? Do they have it's just that kind of that basic human right. But but again, it's like the kids. What do you put on the marketing for it? The kids.
Yeah,
right?
The kids. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I was just thinking. Sorry, I was thinking about the commercials of the. I don't know the organization. I don't want to lie, but we've all seen the Africa commercials will help a kid.
Say the children $1 a day.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen them. Have we ever seen them do like Save an Adult? Like, have we ever seen like?
No.
Or is it always the kids?
It's always. But and I always think like you can feed a kid, but what about the parents? Like, do we just say like, oh, you're 19? Well,
it's for this person, right? Well, that's it. I'll say that. I'll say that's what I think, because kids give hope.
I like how that is. So Ika has another question. Do you have a recommendation for how to get people to donate funds rather than just donating time or services? So
do you just boldly ask?
So Ike's organization is called Cards. Yeah, Ike's organization is Cards for Kids. People make homemade greeting cards, and we send them to disenfranchised children throughout the world. Senior homes started as kids. We've gone into the seniors, Ronald McDonald houses, but kids in hospitals, kids after disasters. But we have people that love to make cards. They make cards. But what do we need? We need postage. We need money.
Did he answer? Ask him if he asked for money. That's the first part. Like, do you simply say,
Yes.
like, you ask,
Yes.
ask him what the response is that he gets back. Like, what's holding people back? Because there's always a reason why they don't give. It either hasn't been communicated well, or the ask isn't very clear. So you'll see people say, help us send cards to kids. No, give me $25 to send 35 cards a month. Right? That's what your $25 is doing. So I also think that, like, sometimes
they don't reply.
So then that's a matter of, like, is our communication to them only when we need some money, right? Or have we communicated, hey, last month we sent out 10,000 cards thanks to such and such happening, and maybe we got a thank you card back, so I wanted to share it with our community. And maybe that group of people aren't your donors. They aren't your gifts. They aren't going to be that. Maybe for them, I would do a quick survey, like, where do I fall in your priorities, right? So 1 through 3, do you give your time to any other organizations, and where do I fall in level of importance? Do you currently give financially to other organizations? Where do I fall in that? And that helps you kind of gauge, because if you've asked me 2 times and I've said no, my answer is no. Don't ask me again, because I might not come back and write cards, right? And you don't want to start to turn them off. So that's where segmenting helps a lot in the communication space. People know if they want to give you their money or not, right? They know if they decide they don't want to. So let me move on to something or someone else. So now let me move on and let me say, these people don't want to give me money, but is there an art club in the community? Is there a center for, like, we I was thinking about Fayetteville. Fayetteville has everything because we have the big 3.
Yes, you do.
We do. So thinking about what's in the community already, can I go to the post office isn't giving out free postage, of course, but is there room for partnership in some type of way that says, if you know what I mean? Like, trying to think creatively to say, I need money. How do I communicate that? And rethinking how often you communicate with people, because I really, I promise, I got glasses last year, which I need on now, if you can't tell. I got glasses. I would have liked to have received a text or email or a call, maybe about 3 months in, to say, hey, how are your glasses fitting? Just some questions. Like, we noticed that you haven't been in to get them tightened or anything. Just know that that's a service that we offer. I received nothing until 2 days before my 1-year exam was due. It said, hey, you're due for an exam. So I really don't want to come back to you because you haven't, you know what I mean? Like, and I just want to use that as an example to think of, if I'm your donor, if you're only coming to me for money, I need to hear from you a little bit more. I don't need you creating newsletters often and putting more on your plate, but are we articulating the impact that we've had already? Are we saying to you, this is why we need your help? This is what your money is doing. This is how much more we could do with your financial help. Or we need some money.
I love that example, because there are so many things. Like, the other week I had to buy some new shoes for racing, and within like a couple of days I got like, oh, you want to write a review of these? I'm like, I just got them. Like, don't ask me to write a review of a product that I just bought 2 days ago. But if you had asked me to write the review in 3 months, when I'm actually using that product, I'm more likely to write that review. And that's great, because, like, there's a lot of times where, even like my vet will be like, oh, we saw your dog today, your test results. How are your dog doing? You just saw her yesterday. But how you think she's doing? But you know what I mean?
So automation has gotten us out of relationship because we're just like, okay, I'm going to put this email on automation, and when they leave, I'm going to send this, and then this is going to happen. And I learned
automatic to do 3 months from now, though.
That you absolutely can. And I learned from that really quickly, because I started like using a calendar and all these things. And I didn't realize that I should have marked someone as a no-show. So they got this email. It was so great to see you. Thanks for coming in. I'm like, Automation 101. When you don't show up, make sure you say they were no show. So I think although automation helps us a lot, we've got to think realistically. have you worn the shoes enough? Have you broken them in? You haven't.
Mhm.
If you're talking to someone who just got glasses for the first time, hey, here are 3 tips to keep your glasses clean.
Mm.
Hey, here's something. Not it's time for your eye exam again. No, I'm not coming back. I'm okay. I don't think I need them. Right.
Mm.
So I will say this for EK. Think about what you're communicating before the ask. Think about your process after the ask, because that's the relationship building part. The relationship building part is, even if your organization focuses on sending cards to kids, like get cards made for the potential donors. Show them what their money will go to. Show them, hey, we just made some extra cards and you can do handwritten notes on that. I would make all of my handwritten notes on notes that the kids have made in some type of way. Like I would just have them blank on the inside or something. So it's all relationship building is money. It could be people it can be people that you've seen 1,000 times at events. To get them to open their wallet for you is a different ball game. It's will you invest in me and my cause? So I would think through that, EK.
I have 2 quick questions for you.
Okay.
For and you kind of already mentioned it. For when you're requesting donations, do you find that it's more successful when someone says, like you mentioned, EK, if you donate for $50, we can get this. This is what your $50 donation will pay for. Do you find that those are more successful, or being a little bit more general, like your $50 will pay for or will help a student do this, but really general? Or do you like it like your $50 will give this student transportation, blah, 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 to get to the end goal of getting them to this college trip? Or should you just say college trip?
I think both. I think it's going to depend a lot on your audience, right?
Okay.
So if I'm a new person and I'm not really sure of all of the services that it takes to get them to the college trip, it's nice for me to see something kind of broken down. If I know who you are and I know you got to take the kids, you're going to stay the night, you come to Atlanta to visit all the Black colleges in America, I'm going to give you my money because I'm going to give you my money. Okay. I think the more personal the relationship, the more general people are in the space, because I know you, I trust you, and I know you're doing great work. And sometimes those are just visual things to say, oh, $50 does that. Because if I can see $50, I just went to Ulta, and $50 is a thing of foundation, right? It helps someone quantify what that money does in the realm of how you're serving people. Because, people always use the coffee a day, you're able to
$1 a day, March of Dimes, diamond. Yep.
That kind of does a self-check for us. Like, man, I just spent $50 on this Rihanna Fenty. I could have gave a kid a college, a summer experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a personal thing, because remember, people giving are people. We all got something that's tugging on our heart. We've all got something that's going to make us open up that pocketbook. And it's not going to matter how you sell it to me if it's something I really care about. So for me, I have 2 sisters, and one is a clinical social worker and the other is a registered nurse. And so we're all in serving professions. And so we all do. And so there are things that I'm like, you know what? I had never, COVID was going, people popped up, all these organizations, they're feeding the hospital workers. And my sister's out here on these COVID front lines. And that's the only reason why I bought a hospital in Northwest Arkansas, food. That's because my sister was a COVID nurse. And I'm like, nobody ain't feeding them here. I want to do that too. So remember, we're all people and we got something we care about. So when you talk about being in Chicago and you're going to raise the youth and you're going to develop them, how much do people believe that amongst what they see every day?
Yeah, they do. I think they know that youth need it, but I think also we know that parents need it.
Yeah.
It's both here.
Yeah.
They can both use it. And so a more fun question I have.
Okay.
I don't know how fun it's going to be, but it's different. It's not asking your advice on anything. So, okay,
Okay.
you work with athletes
Uh-huh.
and you work with corporations.
Uh-huh.
Okay, who's really a diva? Are the corporations the divas, or is it the athletes that you're working with? Who's a bigger
Corporation.
diva?
Mm,
Corporations, there's a lot of bureaucracy that goes into that a lot of times. But they're very clear on what they fund, right? So a corporation will say, my application is open June 1 through June 30th. I fund girls who have podcasts in Chicago who went to Penn State. That's all they're funding. That's it. You run into, well, I did that. I did it on time. Why didn't I get funded? Right? Do you have your favorites? Was the money gone? A lot of times they might say, well, it closed, but we had already awarded all the money. So there's really nothing that like builds real relationship to where it's almost like it's just this. This is the piece of paper. This is what we fund. If you know someone in the organization, it helps a lot. If you don't, boom, this is it. I love athletes because I get to kind of choose who I work with, right? People might not want to work with me. I might not want to work with people. So that means I get to work with personalities that I'm like, okay, I really think that like, okay, I could do this. And the greatest thing I learned early on was everything I say yes to, I'm saying no to something else. And so when I was like really, really heavy and working with athletes, it was like, this might not be what I want to do every Saturday in the summer, be at these summer camps. So then how do I serve this space? So athletes are interesting because behind the scenes, they are like some of the sweetest, most respectful, country loving, country having families are great. Like you get to know them. And it just kind of is like a little group of people that just want to do good. They just need some direction. So corporations are like, not personal. This is it. And I like people. So getting to work with people who like I feel like they really want to help people is different versus a corporation who says, I gotta give this money away. This is what I'm gonna do. And we're gonna take a picture with the big check.
We are right. We need to give this away to get our tax write-off. So
I'm not a tax person.
Girl, but yeah, we know how it goes. And Kristen, I had another anecdote that when you asked about the, asking for the $50 for XYZ or $50 general, made me think. It was like a couple of years ago. My mom had gotten a solicitation from her college asking for money, and when we looked at it, when it's like, do you want to donate this, they give you the suggested donations or the other. The minimum suggested was like $250 or like $300, and we're like, that seems like a lot to start with, because if someone was just thinking of giving you $25 and they go look and the minimum you're asking for is $250, they're gonna be like, nah. So like, how do you, when you're doing the marketing stuff, like how do you decide, like, what do you start with? What do you ask for?
Yeah. So the art of the ask. So one thing that people do is a lot of I think it's like prospecting, right? So prospecting is the research of what do I think this person is worth? What's their house worth? Where do they live? Where do they go to school? All the logistics of prospecting. So general ask, give somebody a low entry. I'm a fan of that. It's a $25 low entry. Give somebody that option. You don't want to assume that everybody can come in at the $250, right? You're like, oh wait, you've been out of school 40 years. You should have paid off your student loans by now. Your mortgage is halfway done. You can start at $250. That's very presumptuous, right? But that comes from prospecting where maybe they saw, what home your parents live in, what they're affiliated with. And that's kind of hit or miss because someone's like, well, I don't want to give you.
Do you think places send out like different suggested numbers based on who the person is?
100%.
So that wouldn't have been what went to recent grads.
100%. So it's called prospecting. It's where I'm looking at this category of people that I assume have this much wealth and they have this. And then I'm looking at this group of people that I think can be, this is my $100.
Okay.
And maybe $100.
They probably use like zip codes and find
Zip
out the median
codes, and
income.
then probably how many years you've been out of school.
Yeah.
All the things.
Because
It is
we were looking at this and they're like, that seems like a big minimum ask, but I never thought that they might try to.
No, it is like
shorten
Instagram
it.
stalking to the third degree. If you think people do
Girl.
Instagram stalking, prospecting is their software for nonprofits to purchase for you to do prospecting.
Huh. So Ike had another question. He said, sorry for the question. Don't be sorry. This is my podcast. It's here to grill her. Based on your experience, do you have recommendation on how a small nonprofit with a global presence should position yourself? There are many companies, athletes, donors that are looking to help with their local community. So yeah, so if you're doing something global, lots of this local, how do you kind of go in between that one, right? Where do you focus?
So I think I want to regurgitate what I think he has, which is maybe is he based in Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
Based in Chicago, but they serve globally.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say serve globally, meaning you send the cards, or is there like a program on the ground there?
We send cards globally. We also receive cards globally. So people around the globe will send us cards to Chicago that we will repackage and send to different places around the globe.
Like pen pals. Are we pen pals or are we getting random cards?
It's random card. It's just generic inspirational cards for kids, and people get creative as like 3D thing. Girl, these cards are like cards. Everything's homemade. Yeah.
So I think if that was this space where there's not like a on the ground program, for instance, what he's serving right now is inspiration. If I understand that right, it's people connecting
inspiration
through cards. It's the idea that a couple of words and a beautiful handmade card can give someone hope. It can give someone, a better day. That it can do all the things, right? Yep. So what he's selling across the globe is connectivity, right? He's selling that we have the ability to touch someone across the water with $1. So with $1, we can send smiles to Switzerland, right? I would say if I knew I was sending cards to a particular region, you guys live in a place where there's like tons of culture and all the different, you know what I mean? Like where I live, you're here or you're marching. So I would connect with those local communities and I would say, hey, if you're from, this region in Africa, if you're from Switzerland, you're from Australia, like we are working on sending smiles to where you're from and connecting with people in that way. Because I've never been to Switzerland. I've never been to Australia. Why would I care if you're getting cards from that? If there's a population in Chicago, and you can probably find that on Facebook groups, Instagram groups, Chamber of Commerce.
Girl, just look out the window. Yeah.
Look out the window. You know what I mean? Like, and you guys have that. So I would say connect with the local community of that particular region. See if that helps you build a little camaraderie amongst themselves. You know what I mean? Like, oh, wait, these cards are going there. And I don't know if you choose who's going to receive the card, but imagine if they had families still in that place where you could say you can sponsor, sending cards to this region or however. So I would do that. It's a global reach, but I would start globally, if that makes sense.
I love that because Ike is Nigerian. His pops is from there, so I know we got a good sized Nigerian community here. But just also thinking like up in my neighborhood, it's like the Haitian museum, right? There's like in Chicago, we have all these different museums for different ethnicities. We have the Polish community center, all of these things, and so I believe we send cards to Haiti. We do send cards to Haiti. I know it's off my head. So kind of going to the Haitian community, I like that. I like how you think, and then starting local in Chicagoland, and then using those connections to get to the other Haitian communities around the globe. Look at this. Girl is so smart. Can I put you like a little mini version of you and put you in my pocket? He said, excellent.
Yeah, okay. No, you can just call me.
I love it. So right now I have two people in my pocket. Okay, I have at Penn State, we had a sports psychologist, Dr. Eagleson. He was the most inspirational man. I learned so much from him. I keep a little uke in my pocket. I'm going to put him in there. I'm also now going to have a little tie in my pocket, and I'm going to put her expertise. Some
Look at that.
people that you're one of the very few people that put in my pocket. And I'm like,
Well,
I gotta get a little pocket version.
Polly pocket tie. Remember that little Polly pocket tie?
Yeah,
Yes.
literally. You're gonna have your own little adventure lands and whatever landscape you want.
No, you guys are awesome. But yeah, I would do that. Start there. And thank you for that. Very sweet of you.
I love, of course. Oh man. So
thank you. Hey, you had some really great questions.
He didn't mean to start a nonprofit, but he did. And, sometimes things just happen, and I'll connect us, offline, because we've been friends since 6th grade. So his family is my family. But to kind of like get this, actually, no, I had one more question, because you're talking about your siblings working in service roles too. What did your parents work in? Like, how did your parents or your family, or what was it that made all of you guys kind of go into this giving back type roles?
Well, my mom definitely, like, she's still so awesome. So right now, like, she has this group of old people. Even when she's not working, she will go to her job at the VA and she will sit and play cards with them and play board games. And I'm like, but you're not working today. But she just loves what she does. And so a lot of times we've seen her just be of service. So I'm from a small place, 2 stoplights. Okay. We're from the big city. Everybody served everybody. There was not a space of I'm poor, so I'm getting something. It was just like really community oriented. So there was no, I don't know how to explain it. Everybody went through this little stage where their family lived in the projects, and then everybody moved out. It was like a little, this is really where you live for a couple years, and then you move on out, and nothing was bad about it. Like, oh, you live in, you know what I mean? So I didn't really grow up feeling like we were just receiving charity. The first time I feel like I received charity was our house burned down when I was in 7th grade, I think. That was the first time that like I was like aware of the Red Cross and all the things that people do when your house burns down. But other than that, like my community is giving. Like my whole entire community is like one of the most beautiful places that I could have grown up in. Like it's just home. It's really sweet place that, it's just awesome. So it's Williston, South Carolina. Hey, y'all, if anybody's watching. But yeah, so that's my mom. And I also think, I think me and my sisters were just kind of like, all right, we got to go to college. I've never been into anything.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to South Carolina State for undergrad and Western Kentucky for grad school. And my sister went to University of South Carolina for both of her degrees, and then my baby sister went to Francis Marion, so all in South Carolina. But yeah, so I think it's just I come from a giving place, from like a really sweet community that is really sweet. My son just, we live on a dirt road, so my son thinks like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm like, no, not really. You just come do it, and you better not wear those shoes outside. Like I want to be that mom, but no.
I love it. So I love that you went to South Carolina State, because during Black History Month, I had on an attorney from here. She does a lot of civil rights, all those types of stuff. She went to South Carolina State University. Lecrae.
Soror, yes,
yes. And when she was talking about it, she was saying that how if she hadn't gone to South Carolina State, she probably wouldn't have gone to law school. If she hadn't gone to that HBCU and learning about the leaders that had came from that university, her whole trajectory would have been completely different. And so you are now my second South Carolina State, and y'all doing good things in the world. Like y'all doing these like big girl stuff. You know what I mean? Like y'all changing the world. Like she's not writing policy, she's doing law stuff. You're doing I love it. So there has to be something in the blood, something in that water.
Something that's it. That garnet and blue, baby.
Girl, it has to be like something. Did you ever think of not going to HBCU, or was it always like
no? It was the one thing I wanted to do. At first, it's so crazy because Morris Brown just got their accreditation back in Atlanta. And I remember coming on college tours, and I'm going to either Clark, I'm going to Morris Brown. And then like you get this bill, you're like, well, no, I think I'm gonna stay in state with these private schools. And so yeah, I always wanted to go to an HBCU. I just felt like there was something for me being a first generation college student that I wanted to have that. I watched a lot of A Different World. So I'm like, oh, this is gonna be it's really like that was my idea of what college was. And then I have a cousin. I'm gonna have two cousins, and they both went to Benedict. Timmy and Toya. They both went to Benedict, and so the people that did go to college went to HBCUs, and I was like, I'm going to a black school. My cousin Toy is a Delta. I'm like, I'm pledging Delta. Like, I don't even know if she knows that, but that was like the thing that I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. That's the person closest to me that I had seen like do it. So I'm doing that. So yeah, thanks for asking that. But my sisters are awesome. I love them.
I love it.
No, you guys were awesome. You're great interviewers. Thank you.
Well, thank you. But you're not off the hook yet.
Yeah.
Because I got a question for you.
That's one. Give it to me.
You're from South Carolina. And you work with athletes. What sports teams do you cheer for coming from South Carolina? Because y'all don't have any in-state ones.
So I'm from South Carolina. Never been like a Carolina girl. Never been a Clemson girl. Never been like I just didn't. So if I'm cheering for a school in South Carolina, it's South Carolina State. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I will tell you, you couldn't tell me that I was gonna be like a footballer. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta watch college football now. But I will say, like, if I'm cheering for like a college team, it's Georgia.
Bulldogs.
By chance, just however it may happen. But no, I don't have a team. Like I don't have a team. Sure, Georgia's the closest I come to a football team that I'm like, well, I want to watch them.
Professional teams or no?
No, like I was gonna say, like outside of sentimental stuff, no. Gosh.
Okay.
Like sentimental stuff is like, oh, I met some really great girls in Nashville. I love but I'm like, you love the Titans? No, you love the people you met in Nashville. So I don't have a team that I'm just like, I'm watching football today. I think I watch college more because it's just super cool to see them like be at the start of the dream, to know like this is it. It's getting to know their families a little bit. It's just like, oh, I'm rooting for them. Like I just love like that. My son is 8, so he's just getting to the point of even liking anything sports for real that you just haven't put him in. He's actually at football camp right now. He's at the Kirby Smart football camp, and you can't tell him that he's not like on a recruiting visit for Kirby Smart. Like, offer him a scholarship in 2033, right? He's so. But yeah, so I don't have one.
Okay. I would say, Kristen, I don't know about you, it's probably better for her mental health if she doesn't have
No matter how much I try to not care, and I even tell myself, oh, I wish I didn't care about sports, because it can really mess up your state of mind sometimes.
Listen, hadn't watched any whole basketball games all year long. Here I go watching the Lakers, or now I watch Miami and somebody.
The Nuggets in the finals.
Yes, and there was like 2 seconds left, and I'm like, if that was my team, I'd be so upset right now. I can't even do this, right? Like I don't do that. Now, if you ask me, I'm a baller. I'm a baller to the day I come. I'm a big 5'4", and then people are like, oh, where'd you play? I'm like, high school.
Shoot.
I'm sounding like I came out of retirement last week. So my boss is like, we play 5:30 on Wednesdays. Like, I got you. I'm coming. Now, mind you, these are full grown men, okay, who are playing full courts 5:30 in the morning. So I walk in there, I'm like, all right, now I ain't know it's gonna be this many people. You act like y'all ain't have, but a little 5-10 people. So I walk in, y'all, and you count off, you gotta shoot. I'm like, all right, let me warm up. I gotta get myself together. I'm coming off the bench after 20. So I get on this team. Luckily, it's with 2 guys that I know. So 2 of the guys I know and 2 of the other ones I don't. I made it up the court like 4 times, and I saw somebody sitting on the side. I was like, "Hey, sub." I'm like, come on. I'm up out of there. Like, I'm out of here. And so when my boss was like, "You're out," I'm like, "Yeah, it's a little, He's like, "You're about to." I was like, "Hey, look, I came off the bench 20 years. I ain't ready for full-grown men in basketball." And then it was one of those things where I was like, they're gonna at least let me shoot one time. Like, they're gonna let me set a little 10-footer up. Nah, they were playing. I said, let me sub. I'm gonna sub myself on out. That baby was looking like, huh? I'm like, come on. You look 18. You ready for them? I'm out.
Shoot. You better tell Gigi you want to go 1-on-1 against her.
Nah.
Because she said she retired too, but
No.
And you should ask them to take your son to a Razorbacks football game if you haven't taken him one yet.
Girl, you know what? You can't tell him that he's. When we first moved to Arkansas, we were at a restaurant and there was a family that must have seen maybe something we had on that was Georgia. So they came and spoke, and they said, "We tell our kids in our house, we say go dogs. Outside of our house, we say go hogs." And I was like, "Oh, I get it. You're in the land of the Razorbacks." But that was probably one of my first experiences.
Yeah, you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn. But yeah, they be going to games. You better go ahead. They got a good program now. They done turn it around. Little Arkansas. I never thought I'd be cheering for Arkansas, but since Chris went down there, I'm like, I'm a low-key Arkansas fan. What up?
Listen, I went to an indoor track meet. I was like, what's going on?
Oh, girl. They are.
Yeah.
The Chris's girls are.
They are
out of this world. This girl broke the American record in the indoor 400. It's a college girl. Britain is
Britain. That's it.
Britain Wilson. She's something else. She wins one event in record time. 25 minutes later, she wins another event. Like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, it's wonderful.
I know.
It's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I'm an Arkansas track and field fan.
There you go.
This one too, but I love my Arkansas. But final question. Final question for you. Get ready. What is on? I don't know if you do vision boards or any of this, but what is on Ty's future visions? What are we doing for the rest of 2023 going into 2024?
Ooh. So I have the goal to raise $50,000 for like a friend who started an organization. Like, I really want to get her like just $50,000. So that's one thing for me that I would love to be able to do work-wise. The other thing is I just started a new position. So that is trying to apply for about another $150,000, $200,000 before the end of the year in grants for the deadlines we haven't met. And then personally for me, it's just continuing to like not be afraid. It's to say to myself, I trust myself. I trust my decisions. I trust this season of my life, and to live it boldly and confidently. So that's on my board, is to live bold and to live confidently in that, while raising some money for some people that I love. And that's it. My son and I are going to go on Christmas holiday this year. We're going to go somewhere. So this will be my first year taking him like away for Christmas. So I'm divorced, and my goal is for us to work through what traditional things look like, and then to create our own things that can be traditions, so that he doesn't feel like, well, this isn't a tradition of Christmas. It's like, no, we get to create what we want to do.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're going to go lay on the beach, and we're going to have a good time doing it, because we can do what we want. So this will be my first year being able to do that with my son. So I'll let him pick a place. And so that's me for the next 6 months of the year, living boldly and confidently.
Girl, I love it.
Great.
Yeah,
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on.
You guys were awesome. I am so glad. Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Chris. for bringing me into the loop of Sherry and Kristen. It's been a pleasure. If I'm ever in Chicago, I love pizza, so I'm gonna call y'all for pizza recommendations.
You're gonna hang out with us for a little bit more than the food, girl. Because when you
Well,
hear,
I mean, a little bit more than that too, but like if we're in,
it's the start of summertime shot. It's the best time of year to be here.
well, listen, I like
Shoot, you guys are into the inside.
All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Thanks so much, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night. Okay.
Oh, she was wonderful.
She was.
Man.
And that was great to share so much of her knowledge with us.
Yes. It's a space. And, with you, doing your nonprofit stuff, it's like, shit ain't easy. and
No, it's not.
You said, no, it's not.
No,
but okay, I got to ask you, jumping onto the sports world.
Okay.
What's going on in the baseball world? Talk about my Cubs.
Well, they're just not good.
Okay. Second, third.
At the beginning, they were a lot more fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then they turned into what we probably thought they were going to be.
They are who we thought they were. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, and the famous words. But then they have these, so they get swept by the Reds. And then they win 2 out of 3 against the best team in the league, the Rays. So
right, that's right. They beat Tampa Bay.
So it's but they have Marcus Stroman. Now they're talking about trading him. They can get a lot. I don't need any more prospects. Prospects means you're going to be bad for many years because the Cubs aren't bringing up any prospects for 2-3 years. So it's just going to be bad. And who's the pitcher's taking his place? No.
Like y'all just got rid of most of your team last season for prospects.
Yes.
When and prospects
they got rid of Yu Darvish, and like as we said on Plunked, when we were naming who these people were, I was like, who? We got 4 who's.
Girl, I don't know who nobody is on the Cubs roster.
So David Ross, I blame some on him, but I also understand he doesn't have that much. But what he has, he also doesn't make good decisions. He doesn't. Sometimes you're like, why is your lineup like this? I don't. He's learning on the job, but who has time for that? It's enough. They fooled us and thinking, oh, they are going to be competitive this year, and then they were like, yeah, you're right. So they're just not good. They're going to have a good day, especially when Stroman and Steele pitch. Those are when he gets back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
But those are your days where you feel the most confident. Maybe Leiter Jr. and Alzolay, they're doing well in the bullpen. I need them to pick a closer and stick with them. Let them learn.
Who needs a closer?
Right. This bullpen by committee, it has never worked in the history of the game.
Nope.
Or closer by committee. Sorry. This closer by committee, it hasn't worked.
Nope.
So, but anyway,
you just want to get me all working for. Yeah, you're welcome. I like to get the blood pressure going. And just
yes, you did.
Hope the therapy. I mean, look, my Tigers ain't been good since we traded Verlander for prospect.
Yeah. Well, weren't they in second? Weren't they in second place?
We're still under 50% though.
Yeah.
We're like, hold on, let me pull this puppy up. I have it up.
There's 7 games under. Now they're in third place.
Yeah, we're in third place, but we're under 500. Like right now, the Twins are leading our division at literally 500.
I mean, the Central, AL and NL, garbage.
It's just garbage.
Yeah. Midwest can't have nice things.
Can't have no nice things. Like the East is the last place team in the East, Boston Red Sox at 500. First place in the Central at what are we doing here?
It's horrible.
The NL is very similar. It's wild, right? You're like, yay.
And we're both fans of teams that we just continue to torture ourselves. Now, on the football end, you guys, your Detroit Lions, are not really surprised because they already did that last year. So now, but like people are, when was the last time people like really said that they have a chance to win the division?
A few years ago. What was that? 2017, 2016-ish.
And it's
back.
true. Okay.
It's good. You know what? We got a target on our back. We'll see how some of these moves shake out. I'm a little curious. I don't know. Like the running back situation last year, I thought was great. Now we got different running backs, so I'm like,
yeah. But you got David Montgomery. You guys got a good one.
We do have David Montgomery, and like I get Swift and his injury thing. I understand it on a logical level, but like on kind of that more fan level, it's like when he's healthy, he's probably the best running back out of the backfield, catching ball wise, like in the NFL, like one of the best. And so at least we gave it to Philly. We didn't give it to, Minnesota, like right in, but it's like,
you do wonder, like, you couldn't just try it, like, or you couldn't just get a more capable, like, okay, you couldn't pay him and David Montgomery. Like, why don't people want good dual running backs? Like,
it had to have been. I really hope they saw something in the combines, right? Because I thought we were taking a defensive player with our first, you know what I mean? And then they trade the pick, and that Texas Tech, I'm forgetting his name, that Texas Tech defensive end was right there, logically the most perfect thing. And then we take a running back. So I'm hoping that there was something that they saw that they were like, no, that. And so I'm hoping. I will say I was very happy when we took Hendon Hooker as for QB. I was saying that because I'm no Tennessee fan. Let's get this straight. However, I was a fan of his game, and to see him, does he have things to work on? Yes, but I see a lot of athleticism and I see a lot of potential. And to get that type of talent in the third round.
Yeah, that's nice.
Because then it's like this year, there's going to be no quarterback controversy. Goff is our quarterback. There is no controversy. We have this guy sitting there who could potentially be great. We could have Goff for 2 more years if we want to write out his whole contract, and it wouldn't be weird at all. We could have Hooker on in 3 years. Yes, I know he's older, but whatever. Look at Tom Brady.
Right.
However, if we decide Hendon Hooker is not correct for us, we did not waste a first-round draft pick, and we could still get a quarterback next year in the first round if we decide he is not who we thought he was.
True.
True.
That is true. And and we'll see. I believe Justin Fields will be much better this year, and he will answer.
You can't get much worse.
But people still question: is he the future? He better be. So I think
I haven't seen it yet. This is a make or break year because there's no more excuses.
Yeah, that is true. He has. They worked on the line. He has receivers. He has new running backs. So this is it.
This is it. I'm not sold on Justin Fields being a franchise QB yet. I'm not against it, but I'm just not sold. So this is his year to prove all of us wrong or prove people right. So, to say the pressure is on, ooh, child. I would say he might have the most pressure role in the NFL for a quarterback this year. I can't think of nobody else that needs to prove themselves as much as that man. Yeah, because he don't have anybody. He doesn't have a body of work to back it up. This is it.
That's
true. Don't do well this year, you are now relegated to a backup QB for probably the rest of your NFL career.
His excuses will be gone.
So
I got faith in you, Justin.
And what do you think about the future of where the Bears will be playing? Because apparently the Arlington Heights got some issues now. What's going on with that?
Yeah, but I think they'll still wind up there. I don't, because they already like put down some money. What was it, like 197 million, or they signed something, or I know it's no big
Pocket
deal.
change.
Me as a fan, I'm not going to go to Arlington Heights anyway. I didn't really go to Soldier Field, but there was a better chance of me going to Soldier Field. It's like, where would I rather go, Naperville or Arlington Heights? And does Naperville have the size, the space that they can do that state-of-the-art community that they were going to build in Arlington Heights?
No, I don't think so.
And I think they're just now meeting with Brandon Johnson, but the park district isn't going to give them what they need to do what they want to do to build the type of, retractable, all that, so there can be more concerts, the Super Bowl, because you're going to have to get a dome, retractable, whatever, if you want to make that money for the Super Bowl. And who wouldn't want to come here for a Super Bowl if it's covered up?
It makes no sense. Like, we were talking about this at work today. Where Soldier Field is from just a look standpoint, you know what I mean? From the cityscape, out of any NFL stadium, it's picture fucking perfect, right? It's right by downtown. Yeah. It's right on the water. You can see it when you're flying in. You can see it on the boats. You can see it, driving it into Lakeshore. Why the effing F have they not done what they needed to do? Because to me, that's perfect. I hate to see teams going to the suburbs.
Yeah.
It just, there's something about it, like, you see it with like the LA teams, but then you see like Detroit in the city, you see Cincinnati in the city, you see all these other teams of like what it's like to have a stadium in the city. What it does, when fans are coming in, fans don't want to come in to see Chicago and spend it out and figuring out how to get out to Arlington Heights.
No.
You don't want to do that. You want to come in, you want to be in Chicago.
Yeah. And then, the way you drink, if you're here, you can get on some public transportation.
Just walk.
Right.
Or walk on over to the South Loop.
Yeah. The Uber ride won't be as expensive coming from downtown. So I would prefer them stay here. I just don't think the Park District, they are just so, like, they continue to have terrible side. The turf monsters, but they won't change anything. It's just like that part. I don't know.
Talking about divas.
It would be much better if it's here, because the aerial shots during the game of the city. Like,
can you imagine having a Super Bowl?
Oh yes, right there. It wouldn't get much better.
It would. You get the overhead shots of this. You get the city. You put on, I forget which building it is, where you put the lights on, and they have that when you're driving up.
No one's trying to see aerial shots of Arlington.
He's saying, don't forget Dallas Cowboys play in Irving, and the 49ers play in Santa Clara. Yeah, and that kind of sucks. Like I was talking, like Orlando Magic. They play downtown Orlando. Yes, it's a secondary market. But you exit the game and you're there. You're in the city. You're with the bars. You're with the this. I talked about the Bengals thing. Detroit. All these things. And yet, thank you, EK. Yes, and Atlanta. Atlanta has things in the city. Like, it just makes it so.
It does. It's better.
Fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's just, and Chicago has so much to offer. Let's get the tourism
and the money that will go into the city. If it stays there.
Please keep
figure it out.
Figure it out, Chicago.
Yes.
Because I'll tell you what, I will not be going to Arlington Heights. I'll be more likely to go to Detroit to watch a game than Arlington Heights.
Arlington Heights, yeah.
Girl, I don't want to sit in that traffic.
No. Oh my gosh. No.
And I don't want to be worrying about a Metro.
Yeah.
I hate because they don't run like the CTA. You just get in the CTA when it comes. If you can't get on that one, you get on the next one. If they're all crowded, you just go south a few stops, and then you switch around and you go north, and you get home. Boom! This is how I live my life. But you're talking about the Metro. I gotta look at a schedule.
Right.
Like, I gotta figure this out. Like, and then once I get into the city, I gotta figure out where I'm getting off, and I gotta figure out how I get home.
I'm running to catch it because there isn't another one coming for an hour.
Girl.
Yeah.
I ain't doing it.
No good. Stay in the city. We
Stay
made
in
the
the city.
decision for you, Bears.
Yes.
She said
Wait.
what she said.
Stay in the city. Ha. And on that note, I can't think of a more perfect time.
This has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.